Media Center. This is Just Hear Me Out with Peyton Byers.
Hello and welcome everybody to Just Hear Me Out. I'm your host Peyton Byers here on 91.1 KAOR FM Vermilion. You can also listen on tunein.com if you search KAOR. Thank you so much for tuning into the show today. The opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of this station, the USD Department of Media and Journalism, or the University of South Dakota. If you like the show, don't forget to go follow the show on Facebook and Twitter. Facebook at Just Hear Me Out 91.1, Twitter at Just Hear Me Out SD. If you'd like to listen to previous episodes of the show, they are available, well, most of them are available on YouTube by searching Just Hear Me Out. You can go to the channel page and you can look at previous episodes there. There are also links to the YouTube channel on the Facebook page if you can't find it on YouTube. Also, if you disagree with me at all on anything and you want to come onto the show and talk to me about any issue, feel free to reach out to me on Facebook and Twitter or email me or whatever, however you can get a hold of me, and we can definitely work something out and get you in here on the show to talk to me. And we'll see what's up. So, big news today. Big news. It came over the weekend, actually. So, for those of you who don't know, which, I don't know, you must be living under a rock or anything, if you pay attention to politics, I guess. If you pay attention to politics, you'll know that Director Mueller has finished his report, and he gave it to Attorney General William Barr. It has arrived, so the day that everybody's been waiting for, grinding their teeth, waiting it out, it is here. So, it was delivered to William Barr's office on Friday. William Barr is the Attorney General that just got sworn in or approved in not too long ago by Congress. And so the Mueller report was a total of 675 days long. So it was an almost 2-year-long investigation into probing into Russian collusion, seeing whether Trump colluded with the Russians in order to win the election or influence the election. And so one thing that there's a lot of talk going around in the media right now because basically the Mueller report completely destroys everything the media have been saying for the past 2 years because they're all, I bet Trump did this. I think he did it. He's going to go in jail. So you know how during the campaign Trump was chanting, lock her up about Hillary because she did some sketchy stuff and then got away with it. Well, everybody in the media was chanting, lock him up, and they really wanted to lock him up, but it just didn't work out. Now, Trump came out. Obviously, it was an amazing day for Trump on Friday when this happened. And the first tweet he had after that was actually Saturday morning, and it said, I don't remember exactly what it said, but I'm pretty sure it says, good morning, it's a great day, or something like that. And that was it. And it was entertaining. So anyway, is it a full exoneration of Trump? That's what a lot of the debate's about. So in the letter that Barr sent over to Congress, because Attorney General Barr summarized what he read in the report and sent a 4-page letter to Congress summarizing it because it's under the regulations of how the special counsel stuff works. You can't just release it right away. It's actually a confidential report because there's sensitive information inside of it. And so he detailed a little summary of it, and he sent that to Congress. And in the summary, he said he's going to work as hard as he can to release as much of it as he legally can. And Barr has been committed to that this whole time. So I don't think there's a question as to Barr's motives on releasing it. I think he's going to release as much of the report as he can. So on to the exoneration. So he says, Mueller said in the report that they found no evidence whatsoever that Trump colluded with Russia, but he was not convicting him and he was not exonerating him. And a bunch of people said, he's not exonerating him. Well, Trump claimed it was an exoneration, and he's kind of right. While it said Mueller is not exonerating Trump, there's a couple things that are an issue with that. So first of all, it's not a prosecutor's job to exonerate somebody. Like if you're the whole reason the special counsel was a thing is because it was looking to see if something did happen. It was looking for evidence that he did do it. And so its job was not to prove that he didn't do it. Its job was to prove that he did do it, and they could not find anything that proved that he did it. So in essence, they're not saying that there's no way he could do it, but they're saying they could not find any evidence that he did it, and it took them 2 years to do this. And they used 19 lawyers in the brief. They go over this: 19 lawyers, 40 FBI agents, over 2,800 subpoenas, over 500 search warrants, 230 orders for communication records, 50 orders to authorize use of pen registers, 13 requests to foreign governments for evidence, and 500 witnesses were interviewed in this almost 2-year-long investigation, and they found nothing. So while he never, he didn't exonerate President Trump of any collusion crimes or anything like that. That wasn't his job. Also, there really wasn't a crime to exonerate him of because they never proved that he did anything. So as was said by Van Jones in an undercover interview almost 2 years ago, as we suspected, the whole probe was a big nothing burger. The Russia thing was a big nothing burger, but that did not stop the media from jumping all over it the whole time. It's really it's just kind of sad, I guess, to look at the way people have treated this. So they had no evidence whatsoever, and they jumped all over him for nothing. And I don't know. So they're reacting poorly. There were some media members that said the right things. They were like, this is a good thing. This is proof that our president did not collude with a foreign government to try and throw the election or overturn the election. So that's a good thing. Like they realized that, hey, it's a good thing that our president didn't do something illegal. So you can see those are the people who at least have some sense in their brains. But other people, you could tell, were just sad. They were just upset that Trump did not commit a crime, that our president did not commit a crime. I think, at that point, I think you need to take a step back and you need to look at yourself and you say, okay, what do I actually want? Do I want the good of the country, or am I sucked into my strange subjective view of the world and determined that I can't be wrong even though the evidence is not there for my viewpoint? I think that's what's going on in a lot of their minds. So first of all, let's look into why did this investigation happen? If there was absolutely no evidence, or at least not enough evidence to even come close to indicting him, why did the Mueller investigation happen in the first place? Well, it's an interesting story how it got started, actually. So I think everybody knows who James Comey is. He was the FBI director in the Obama administration. And basically, Comey, Comey, dude. He just everybody hates Comey now. Everybody on all sides of the aisle hates Comey because he made everybody mad. First, he made the Republicans mad by not investigating Hillary Clinton and by looking into Trump for Russia stuff that we found out now is not a thing. But then he turned around and made the Democrats really mad by releasing Hillary Clinton emails and releasing reports on Hillary Clinton right before the election. So he made everybody mad, and Trump was right to fire him because he had some corrupt people under him and he did not do his job correctly. And so people that were mad about him firing Comey, it's a two-sided coin. Nobody really liked Comey that much. So the question is now, so it started under Comey. This investigation started under Comey, under Obama's watch. And the question is how much, so now that we know that there's nothing to it, how much did Obama know? How much did he sign off on is my question. Did he know he was doing this kind of illicit stuff? I'm not quite sure. So Andrew McCabe was the interim director of the FBI. So once Comey got fired, we had an interim one until we could get the new FBI director up and running. And so Andrew McCabe was that guy, and he was acting FBI director, and then he lost. So after he was done with that, he lied a bunch, and he was a big reason this got forwarded so much, this whole investigation. And he actually lost his government pension for lying to Congress about the investigation, trying to incriminate Trump. And so that'll tell you a little something. So let's listen to McCabe I think he was getting interviewed on CNN, I believe. I'm not sure, but here's a little clip from McCabe. He knew that it was all false, and he just lied through his teeth and tried to make it sound like Trump had some inside information, and that there was something there, the Trump-Russia collusion. So let's listen to that.
Did my job. I stood up to the obligations of my office. When we're presented with facts, we made hard decisions that we knew would be tough on the organization, would be tough on us personally. Look what I've gone through as a result of those decisions. But we did them anyway because we were committed to our responsibilities and serving this country.
Do you still believe the president could be a Russian asset?
I think it's possible. I think that's why we started our investigation. And I'm really anxious to see where Director Mueller concludes.
And so right there you hear it. That's Andrew McCabe just going and he was just being untruthful. And that's unfortunate that there's people like that. And then you have the story of Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. And now this is an interesting one right here. And so under McCabe, there were two agents that were working to try and further this operation. And their names are Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. Now, these two were FBI agents who had an extramarital affair with each other, so they were both married separately, and then they got together and did some stuff. And there's some text messages that go between them. And aside from like their love affair stuff in the text messages, they also found some interesting texts regarding President Trump. So during the campaign, they were talking about how much they don't like Trump and how much they want Hillary to win. And they were certain that Hillary was going to win, but they weren't completely certain. And so they took out a quote insurance policy. They were talking about an insurance policy in these texts in case he would win the election. And that insurance policy they were talking about was this investigation into Russian collusion with the Trump campaign. They knew there was nothing to it, and it was just all a ploy to try and destroy Trump and trying to get him out of office because they just didn't want to accept him as the winner of the presidency. And Hillary Clinton has talked about stuff like this too. She says she thinks that he colluded with Russia. She doesn't think she lost the election. Well, the issue is here's why Hillary Clinton lost the election right here. It's not because Trump was a good candidate. Trump was a very bad candidate. I mean, for goodness sake, like not that long before the election, a video came out of him saying he was going to grab women by the you-know-where and stuff, and he still managed to beat Hillary Clinton. That's because Hillary Clinton was legitimately the worst candidate on the face of the earth that could have been put up for the Democrat. Like, it was just you had to pick the shiniest of two pieces of fecal matter is what you had to do in that election, and it's. So she lost the election for herself. She was just a bad candidate. There wasn't any foul play as far as I know I haven't seen any proof of it yet. There might be, but I highly doubt it now, especially since they've investigated it for 2 years and found nothing. So this isn't just speculation though. Lisa Page, Peter Strzok stuff. Lisa Page admitted it under oath in a congressional hearing just not that long ago here. So the Obama Department of Justice and the Obama FBI sought to undermine Trump's campaign, and the media has been totally complicit with this, and it's even cheered these accusations that are based on absolutely no evidence whatsoever for the past 2 years. And so here's a little compilation of media outlets acting like it's the end of the world and Trump has done something horrible every single day, or every month, I guess, from August. No, it's even before that. It's early 2017, and it goes just month by month. And here, just have a listen.
Donald Trump's done. He's done. There's no question about that. He's done.
Breaking news.
A bombshell.
Today is a turning point. Today was historically bad for President Trump.
Today was a turning point.
A turning point.
We're at a turning point here.
The beginning of the end for the Trump presidency.
The beginning of the end.
And breaking news.
We have another bombshell.
Mike Pence might have to assume the office of the presidency.
The call for impeachment.
Rumblings of the word impeachment.
Breaking news.
Another bombshell out of the White House.
I believe this is the beginning of the end.
I do too.
It's really the beginning of the end.
The beginning of the end.
He may be feeling the walls closing in on him.
All the walls closing in on him.
The walls closing in on him.
Breaking news, a new bombshell.
One astrologer says this means the beginning of the end for President Donald Trump.
The beginning of the end of the Trump presidency.
Trump will resign.
Trump is going to resign.
Is this the tipping point? I know we've said it over and over.
You think this is a tipping point?
And over and over.
This is a tipping point.
And over and over.
Breaking news, President Trump off the rails.
It was the beginning of the end today.
The beginning of the end.
It reminds me a lot of the last days of Nixon.
Breaking news tonight, new bombshell.
This is the beginning of the end.
The beginning of the end.
The walls are closing in.
The walls closing in.
The walls closing in.
Breaking overnight bombshell.
This is a very dramatic day, and I think it might be near a tipping point. Do you think this is a tipping point?
This is unbelievable. This is remarkable. Have you ever seen anything like this?
His presidency is crippled.
December 1st, 2017, you can mark it down. This is the day that everything changed.
We begin with the bombshell.
The beginning of the end?
The beginning of the end.
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 The beginning of the end?
In fact, if this were a football game, we're in the third quarter. May even be the beginning of the end.
We begin tonight with the bombshell.
Donald Trump is in a lot of trouble.
Trump is in trouble.
The president will resign.
Another hour, another bombshell.
This is a tipping point.
Trump's going down.
This president could be impeached.
I do not think the president will serve out his term. Resignation. I don't think this president is going to serve out his term. Mr. Trump will not serve out his term. He will not serve out his term. No way. No how.
Breaking news.
Absolute bombshell.
I think Donald Trump is in trouble.
Donald Trump is not. He's done. And it's over. It's over.
The walls closing in.
The walls closing in.
This is going to be the Achilles heel.
Breaking news tonight.
I expect Trump to depart.
This week will be the watershed week. Trump is in big trouble.
Trump's in a lot of trouble.
It's a sign of a terrified old man who feels the
Walls
Closing in.
The walls
are increasingly
Closing in on him.
tonight. The walls
are closing in.
today changed everything. This is the beginning of the end.
Today, the biggest
tipping
tipping point for the Trump administration.
What a historic day. The bombshells, they fell.
It's entropy and it's crumbling internally.
He's underwater. He feels
The walls closing in.
Could his testimony be a turning point?
We may be at a tipping point.
It's the beginning of
The end.
The beginning
of the end.
Another bombshell.
Bombshell. Bombshell.
Bombshell.
Bombshell.
Bombshell.
Bombshell.
Bombshell.
this is a bombshell.
It is a bombshell.
I am beginning to resent the word bombshell.
It is a bombshell. No, I'm okay. So that was absolutely hilarious because that compilation wasn't even made recently. That was made back in like August. So you can see the media's been doing this for a long time, and a lot of them talk about how Trump is some sort of bad guy because he somehow let the Russians interfere with us, and they claim that Trump is just some puppet leader for Putin or something like that. Trump has been harder on Putin policy-wise than Obama ever was. Obama allowed Putin to waltz into Crimea, to annex it, without any resistance at all. Putin was doing all sorts of stuff. He walked all over Obama. And he let Putin just walk everywhere. And then Trump, yeah, he sweet talks Putin like in the media and stuff like that. But policy-wise, Trump is way harder on Putin than Obama ever was. He's much harsher. All anyone did by taking a solid side on this at the beginning was just play right into the hands of the Russians and Putin. What do you think Putin's actual goal here was? Do you think he really wanted Donald Trump to be president that bad? Or do you think he wanted to divide the American people and weaken our social fabric? Because I think it's the latter. I think he wanted to divide America, and everybody played right into his hands. You know what would have been good for everybody? Get this. This is great. What if everybody would have just waited until the evidence came out and then made their conclusion, instead of making a conclusion and then trying to form the evidence to fit your conclusion that you already made? I feel like I'm a broken record right now, because every week that I come onto this show, I talk about some other thing the media has been reporting on, that they report on way before they have any evidence whatsoever, and then they just completely just mess it up royally. They get, like, basically, if you're in search of truth right now, all you have to do is just take whatever the mainstream media is reporting to you, and then you just flip it and find the complete opposite of what they're saying. Just take the complete opposite of whatever the mainstream media is saying, and then run with that, and you're probably closer to the truth than you would be if you believe them. Look at it. I mean, you've got the MAGA hat kids, Covington Catholic High School. You've got Jussie Smollett. You've got Trump-Russia collusion. And that's just a few of them that have happened since I started doing this show, which is like halfway into this semester. So it's not even, why does the media have to do that? I don't understand why people can't just be objective reporters, wait for the facts to come out, and then report the facts instead of speculating and pretending that their speculations are facts. It's just disgusting. Why is everybody so afraid of saying that they don't know? If I don't know something, I'm going to tell you I don't know. The reason I didn't talk about this before, this Russia story before, is because there wasn't enough information to talk about. I could have said they're speculating on this and they're speculating on that and they're speculating on this other thing, but what good is that? It was speculation. I waited until now we have a letter out detailing what was in the report, or summarizing what was in the report. Now we can talk about it. Okay, now that Mueller has found his findings. I think it's absolutely hilarious that people jumped so hard on this. Democrats were like worshiping Mueller and like making candles about him, like making candles with his face on it on Etsy and selling them. And they made T-shirts that said "It's Mueller time," which now I think I might go and look for it and buy one, because the irony is the greatest irony ever. Okay, yeah, that's what I need to do. I need to get a "It's Mueller time" T-shirt now, because their worship and praise of Mueller has completely backfired on them. Just insane. They claimed he was the greatest, most even-handed man who shall never be questioned, and now they refuse to accept that he came to the conclusion that there was no collusion. A lot of people right now are saying, well, William Barr, that was Trump's pick to be the Attorney General, and obviously he just must have like skewed stuff when he was writing the letter. I don't think so, because Mueller has like quietly under the table corrected reports and like newspaper articles and stuff like that have been putting out fake information on or disingenuous information on the Mueller investigation, and Mueller has corrected them, and him and Barr used to be friends, or they are friends. So I don't think that they would throw each other under the bus. I don't think that Barr would, because if you're Barr and you say something, you lie about what's in the Mueller report, that is like, you're going to get caught no matter what. He would not lie about it because he knows people are going to demand for it to come out, and it is going to come out. And I think it should come out as much as they legally can. Obviously, don't release confidential information. But I think it's just hilarious. And the left continues to push this without any evidence. They're saying that somehow Barr is he's just skewing it and he twisted it and he's actually lying to Congress, which is very improbable. And this right here, what I'm about to show you, is probably one of the best things I've seen so far. So just hours before Attorney General Barr dropped the letter to Congress, this is Beto O'Rourke at a rally talking about what he thinks about the Trump-Russia collusion.
You have a president who, in my opinion, beyond the shadow of a doubt, sought to, however ham-handedly, collude with the Russian government, a foreign power, to undermine and influence our elections.
In his opinion, beyond a shadow of a doubt, but in his opinion, so even if Trump didn't collude with Russia, in his opinion, Trump did collude with Russia. And that's just how it is. Okay, Beto, thank you. Why don't you just go stand on top of something else? If you don't know, there's a bunch of memes going around about Beto O'Rourke. He just goes and stands on things. He stands on tables. He stands on chairs. He stands on cars. He's always standing on something other than the ground. I mean, I guess I stand on stuff too. Not very often, though. Mostly just the ground. Okay, so a lot of media did have correct reactions to the drop of this, though, which is nice. There's a lot of people that even on some networks like CNN, there was a few people who said, this is a good thing that our president did not, commit these treasonous acts and stuff. But a lot of people are unable to accept it, and a lot of like super radical lefties are definitely. I mean, like, look at Hollywood. Go to pretty much any Hollywood actor's Twitter account right now, and they are crying and they're saying that this isn't it, that there's still going to be indictments, and that even though they said there's not going to be any more indictments, but they're certain that Trump did it. They're certain that Trump did it, even though there's no evidence whatsoever at all, anywhere to be found anywhere. And case in point, Van Jones put it really well. So Van Jones, he works for CNN, and if you don't remember, a couple years ago, maybe 1 year ago, I don't know, he got kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place because James O'Keefe of Project Veritas had an undercover camera video of him saying that the Russia thing was a big nothing burger. And so that went viral all the way. So now Van Jones kind of had to ride the correct side of the argument and say, well, we just got to wait to see what comes out, but I don't think anything's going to come out of it. So basically they just uncloseted him. And now here's him. He was talking on one of the CNN host shows and talking about how he thinks people are going to react to this. So let's listen to that.
And I can't tell you how many people over the years have come up to me, serious people with their hearts broken, saying, but when Bob Mueller comes, man, he's going to get Trump and Trump's going to be out there. Van, how many more days do you think Trump has left? And I said, maybe 8 years if we don't start working on real issues and not just talking about Robert Mueller all the time. And so now I think there is an honest level of sadness and disappointment and disorientation among progressives and Democrats. And I think it goes deeper than just, what's in the report.
So yeah, a level of just sadness and disappointment. How sad that our president didn't commit treason. I'm just devastated that he didn't collude with the Russian government to turn our government into a puppet of the Russian state. It's just heartbreaking that our president isn't a criminal. Apparently, I don't know about you guys, I'm pretty happy that our president isn't a criminal. I didn't think he was a criminal most of the time, but I wasn't going to jump to conclusions until I saw we saw what the report's findings were. And now we have them, and so we can talk about it. But yeah, I think everybody should just go and buy up all the Mueller merch now, all the candles and the shirts and everything. Seems like a really good idea. I'm happy about that. In a little bit, I'm going to have SGA Senator, Student Government Association here at USD, the Senator Amber Hulse is going to be on the show to talk with me about our views on abortion and stuff. So I don't know, trigger warning. It's going to be a debate. I don't even know exactly where her position is on that. She doesn't know exactly what mine is. So it'll be an interesting discussion. We can kind of explore and see where each other are on it. In other news, just real quick before I go to break, I want to talk a little bit about March Madness because it is, I don't know, it's interesting. So sad day, the USD women's team lost out against Clemson. I was very, very sad and disappointed when that happened. But there's been some interesting stuff going on in the men's brackets, some very close calls. Duke Duke is, I'm surprised. Duke is barely pulling them out. First of all, I was really surprised when NDSU gave Duke a fight for the first half of their first round game, which was insane. That was really fun to watch the first half, and then Duke completely, destroyed them in the second half. But we don't talk about that. And then in this last game, I think it was last night, Duke against UCF. UCF almost had it. UCF was one shot away. This shot bounced on the rim several times and almost took them out. And that, I don't know, that would have been crazy, but it probably would have lost a lot of money for the NCAA and March Madness broadcasts anyway. So they're probably happy about that because Duke makes money. Anyway, I'm going to go to a break here for a little bit, and then I'll come back and talk to you guys when I have Amber Hulse here with me. Actually, no, I lied to you. I'm so sorry, everybody. I'm actually going to read through some of the letter that Attorney General Barr sent into Congress. So we're going to do that quick, and then we'll go to a break, and then we'll have Amber Hulse on to talk about abortion. What a fun subject to talk about. Anyway, so he went through and he talked about how 40 FBI agents, all that stuff. I already read those stats off to you, I believe. But yeah, basically, I'm looking at it right now. I don't really want to read it out completely because that's kind of boring, but yeah, no collusion. Nobody around Trump was colluding. I don't know, it mentions WikiLeaks. I'm going to have to look into this more, and maybe I'll talk about it next week. So yeah, I don't know why I even came back to you guys, because I'm going to go to break again. All right, we're back here on KEOR 91.1 FM Vermilion. You're listening to Just Hear Me Out. I'm your host, Peyton Byers, and now I am here with my guest, Amber Hulse. So, Amber, you want to say hi and tell us who you are?
Yeah, hi guys. My name's Amber Hulse. I'm a political science major here at USD. I am a sophomore. I guess I'm involved in Student Government Association here. I was involved in the College Republicans in the past, and I also do some things with the Miss South Dakota organization. So
sweet. And you just had an event yesterday, right? What was that?
I just hosted the first ever Mr. USD pageant here on campus, and it was a mock Miss America pageant with men competing to raise money for Children's Miracle Network.
That's awesome. Sweet. So you know why we're here. We're going to have a little discussion on abortion and see what your views are and my views are and stuff, and see where we disagree, if we disagree and stuff. So I don't know. I'll let you get started. What's your position on the issue?
So I have a little bit of a weird position on abortion, I guess. So obviously I consider myself a conservative Republican, but I also have been labeled pro-choice. And I guess I wouldn't really consider myself pro-choice, but I guess I'm pro-women's rights or reproductive rights, in the sense that I think that the government shouldn't, in a libertarian sense, be able to determine what someone should be able to do with their bodies medically. And so that's kind of my stance on it. I don't think that people should be able to get an abortion up to the 9 months, or be able to get an abortion in the third trimester. Obviously there is a point where I don't think it's right anymore, but I also think that there is too much regulation in the state of South Dakota to get an abortion too. So I think there's a way to find a middle ground, and that's kind of where my stance is.
Okay, so you said you think there's a point where it's not okay anymore. So where do you think that point is?
And I think that's the gray area for everyone. I don't know enough about medical things or enough about pregnancy trimesters or terms to tell you when. But I think some of these states that are passing laws now that a woman can get an abortion in the third trimester up to 9 months or right before the baby's due date is, I think that isn't right. It's up to debate, when the baby starts feeling, or when the baby can hear, when the baby's heart is beating. All those are things that are discussed when talking about this. But I haven't necessarily determined when I think it is not okay. But
okay, so a few things. So you said, okay, you're not exactly sure. You're kind of gray on it. And so there was a recent bill that it did not pass the the House, or no, they did not pass the Senate because it needed 60 votes to pass the Senate, and only 3 Democrats went across the aisle to vote for it, and so it failed. And it was called the Born Alive Infant Protection Act. I think I butchered it. It was something like that. And basically it requires doctors to give the same, like if a baby survives an abortion attempt, it requires doctors to give that child, the born child, the same care they would give any other child at that gestational age, regardless of whether they were getting an abortion or not. So do you think we should have passed that, or?
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to pass. I think if a child survives an abortion, first of all, that's terrible. But second of all, if a child does survive an abortion, we do have the technology and medical expertise now to be able to like help that baby up with all the preemies that are born now. And I think that in those scenarios, that act should have been passed, and I think that doctors should have to take care of that baby.
See, my thing I think about it is okay, if it's even possible for that child to survive that abortion, why are we aborting it? Like, why is that even, if it's possible to get it out without, like, because a lot of people use it's medical needs of the mother or whatever. If that's the case, we should be able to like induce labor, get the baby out some way without, first injecting it with potassium chloride and killing it, So that's kind of my stance. So,
well, I mean, if the argument is the baby could survive at that point in the pregnancy, so the baby should just be, the mom should be put into labor, or the baby should be removed from the mother and then treated such as like the abortion would fail in that sense. I think the argument necessarily for abortions is that women should be able to, like, the reason why people want to get an abortion usually has something to do with like the place that they are or the time that they are in their life, and that they wouldn't be able to either be pregnant and carry a child, or they don't want to have a child at that point, or they don't, have the ability to have a child at that point. And I think that to tell someone that they can't make that decision is the government infringing on like your privacy and protection, and that's what Roe v. Wade determined. And I agree with that, just because I think that limited government is a good thing, to stay out of the people, personal things.
I also like limited government, but I think there's the way I see it is, okay, say that mother doesn't want to have the child there. Why punish the child by killing, like the child, that's the most innocent being that could exist. Because we have a lot of the argument is I think people have to determine where life is, and we can get into that in a second here, but if we determine that it is a life, then there should be absolutely nothing to that we do to end it. If it is a life, you can't do anything with it. If it's not a life, you can do whatever you want with it. And so I think there's a lot of people that they see it they take convenience over, because they don't see the actual child when it's in the womb, and so they don't think of it as a child. And so they take convenience over the life of like another human being. Because so there are people talking about pro-choice, and like you said, you're pro-women's rights and stuff. I think there is plenty of choices, but I don't think abortion should be one of them, because like a lot of people act like it's a binary decision. You either have abortion or you have to have the child. But there's actually 4 choices. You can either A, be a parent, which the people who are getting abortions don't really want to do. 2 is abstinence. 3 is birth control, and 4 is adoption. And so I see that as 4 legitimate choices for doing that. And I don't know. I don't think
once you get pregnant, you don't have those options. And I realize some of them are preemptive options. But I think also the other thing that we have to realize is that, some of this also has to do with culture and how the culture in the United States especially is. And one thing that I actually saw recently that made me kind of think to myself and chuckle, it was on article on Facebook, and someone had commented, why do conservatives all agree that regulating guns isn't going to keep criminals from getting a gun, but that regulating abortions is going to keep people from getting an abortion? And so while I don't know if personally right now if I got pregnant that I would get an abortion, I don't think I would, but I think that other people should be able to have the choice to, or have the ability to like legally get it, because in the past, before abortions were legalized, some of the things that women did to not have a child, so like there's a infographic out there of all the different ways that women the things that women did to their bodies to prohibit them or like basically have a miscarriage so they wouldn't have a baby are terrible. And so to have the government say you can't have this medical procedure that is your choice, your body, your baby, like you did this, your choices, to have the government step in and say you can't do this, I think that's wrong in the sense that then this person that has already made this decision, has already made the mistakes and not, had those other two steps, not had the birth control, not, been educated on that, or not been able to be in a culture where abstinence is, taught, and then have the government step in and say you can't have an abortion, and then that person feels like they have no options anymore, and then proceeds to like harm themselves and possibly harm the baby and kill it in a way that isn't even like medically like safe for anyone in the situation. I think that is even like a sicker or more disgusting discussion about some of the ways that women did that. And so the thing is it's like the gun control argument. Like criminals are still going to kill people. And so, and people are still going to like not want to have a child when they get pregnant. And so like this is still going to be happening. So at least I think that there are different ways to like put precautions in place that, you can't have an abortion when you're in your third trimester. You can't have it after that certain point, whatever we want that point to be. But to say you can't have one at all is only going to make people like the whole gun thing. It's only going to have more bad guys have guns and not have law-abiding citizens have guns.
I think there's a distinction that needs to be made though, because you said, let me try and regurgitate this right. So you compared it to the gun debate. So like the argument is that okay, if we ban guns, just the bad people will have guns and the good guys won't have guns, and then the applicable like abortion argument was like, okay, if we ban abortions, people are still going to have bad abortions or whatever. I don't think they're applicable because in like having a gun isn't killing somebody. Like owning a gun isn't killing somebody. Killing somebody's killing somebody. And so if you're taking away abortions, so right now about just under 1 million abortions happen every year in America here. And so if we were to like get rid of abortion and make it illegal, I'm guessing that number would dramatically spiral down. Obviously, there are people who'd get like, you do crazy stuff, you do back alley abortions and stuff, but that would go way down. And those people are like, they're the bad guys that are going to have the guns either way. Like if they're going to get an abortion, they're going to get an abortion, but we can still prevent all the people who would follow the law. We can still prevent them from getting an abortion. And I don't really think those two, because like if you want to, you could compare the abortion debate to a murder debate. Because like both of them, like if we agree that it's a child in there and it's a living human being, then it's the same. Like you're just killing a human being. And so by that logic, do you make murder illegal just because people are going to murder whether or not it's illegal? I think we have to. You talked about liberty and stuff and how we don't want the government to infringe on people. And I think we need to extend those rights and liberties to a child that's in the womb. Like if we determine it's a human being, if we can agree on that, then it should have all the rights and privileges and human rights that everybody else has.
But it hasn't been born yet. And so like, let's say that it doesn't have yet anyway, in like the way that our legal system is interpreted, it doesn't have those rights because it hasn't been born as a United States citizen yet. So a mother that thinks that they might want to have an abortion, they might, go to a different country and that child would be born in that country and that child would be a citizen of that country. And so rights right now aren't given to a human until they are born. And so I understand the like logic of that argument that you just presented, but at the same time, these rights haven't been extended yet.
Do you think they should be? Because that's how our legal system is now, but do you think
I don't think that
moral?
You can do that just because of the sense that how do you determine like citizenship? Do you determine citizenship by where the people were having sex when the baby was conceived?
No, I think we can, like, you can keep the determining citizenship based on like if they were born here or whatever, if they were born to American parents. I think you can keep that and you can still protect the life of the infant in the womb, like regardless of where it is or who conceived it and stuff like that. I think it's still like, because if that's a human being, if we agree that it's a human being, that's like, there should be nothing that we do to kill it. You know what I'm saying? Do you kind of understand where I'm coming from?
I understand where you're coming from. I guess my biggest thing is that everybody, has this big thing about abortion and the argument about abortion. And I think that you said something really important earlier about birth control and abstinence, because I think that the number of abortions would completely go down if we had more sexual education, if people had more discussions about things that seem taboo with children that are in like high school, because a lot of these like abortions happen when people are 14 to like 24, when in like our society it's not still okay to like have a child yet, or people aren't set up to have a child yet. And so I think that if we had more sexual education, if we had more discussions in school, and it wasn't like a bad thing, and people, especially conservatives, weren't angry about schools teaching your child what your options are, even if you come from a conservative background where abstinence is the only option. I think that also people should be taught, like, hey, birth control is a thing. That's a thing that's okay, that a lot of people use. And if you don't want to, that's okay. But like, I think that people, like, I don't think that Planned Parenthood should be, defunded. I think that that's something that women should have access to be able to.
Do you think the government should be funding the dispersion of like birth control and stuff, or do you think it? Because I understand your argument, but I have a hard time believing that there's, especially like high schoolers and above that, I have a hard time believing that there's any of them who don't know that those options exist. Like the culture that we're in right now. And I think that most of the issue is the culture we're in right now. It's such a culture of like, on TV shows, you see people hooking up with other people all the time and constantly changing partners and stuff like that. And I think they make it look like it's empowering to go and, have sex with like 5 different dudes or like 5 different girls and stuff. And some people say, well, hey, why is it cool if a guy can, if it's like, it's cool for a guy to go do that, but it's, if a girl does that, she's a slut. I think it's wrong both times. Like, we need to try and build a culture where, like, you stick to one person, because that's proven to be the root to happiness. Like, I think it was the 4 or 5 things that are proven to make you more successful is if you don't have a child out of wedlock, don't get married before you're 20, and there was a couple other ones. And it's just, like, really simple rules, like, just wait. And I think if we reinforce that instead of reinforcing a culture of like constant sex and stuff like that, it would be a lot better for everybody. And I think everybody would be a lot happier, and we wouldn't have as much issues with stuff like single motherhood, which is proven to be absolutely just horribly detrimental to anybody it affects.
And I agree with you, but the problem is that is our culture now, and it's not going to probably change very easily. And so instead of saying, well, culture just needs to change and that's the problem, I think we need to address that this is how our culture is now. And so people are having a lot of sexual partners now. And I think that the way that people are being educated about sexual education isn't enough. I mean, I come from a small school, and I never had sex ed, ever. And so the things that I learned when I was growing up about sex and birth control and things were from my friends or from the online health class that we took that literally didn't teach you anything about sexual education except what STDs looked like. That was it. And so I guess, like, you say, oh, well, people, people know what birth control is, but they don't know where you could get it, what the different types are. And I think that when we were talking about the government funding birth control is a prescription. It's a drug. And if we can fund Viagra and we can fund...
I don't think we should be funding that either.
I don't think we should be funding that either, but we do. And so I don't think that it would be bad for a 16-year-old girl to be on birth control to manage her menstrual cycle and her acne, and the government fund that, or your parents' insurance pay for that. And I know, like, in some senses, like, people aren't using it for that. But this is also a discussion about, when a child is born, that maybe the mother wanted to have an abortion and then they didn't, and then that child is in a really terrible situation because you just said that motherhood is, single motherhood is terrible.
But what's worse, like dying or just being in a bad situation?
Yeah.
Like, obviously the child living is preferable there.
But the child doesn't get to make that choice, because some people might say, well, I don't want to live, homeless on the side of the street. I would rather not have a life at all. And that's a decision like that they don't get to make at that point.
They don't get to make a choice if we kill them, though. You know what I'm saying? Then they're never even.
But it doesn't. Either way, they don't get to make the decision. So I guess that argument is kind of moot.
I think it's much better for somebody to live, and like have a chance, because there's right now, despite what a lot of people say in this country, there's a lot of mobility wage-wise if you follow those rules. Like, I forget what the other rules were, but I was detailing them earlier. And if you follow those, you're almost guaranteed to succeed in America. Like, it's like 98%, I think, is what it was. So.
But a lot of people don't. And so I guess that's my thing.
We need to fight that on a culture front, not I mean, it's a sucky situation. I think we can both agree that. But I don't think the issue is to Band-Aid it and just pretend the problem doesn't exist. I think we need to attack it on a culture front and just try and make it so we don't have to worry about this problem anymore and these problems, because regardless of what the situation is going to be when it is out of the womb, we can't, like you talk about choice and stuff, we're revoking the choice from a child if we kill it in the womb before it comes out into the world. You know what I'm saying?
But you're also revoking the choice from a woman if you determine that abortions are illegal.
So
the other thing is that, like, you know, we're in class together, for any of you that are listening, and we're actually learning about women's voting rights. And I think it's interesting, you know, we're just coming up now on 100 years of women just earning the right to vote in this country. And so we're still not at parity in government, and government is the one making this decision, and women are not in parity with men in government. And if we're going to be talking about women's bodies and the decision that women make, like 90% of the time, or they end up making without the influence of the father in most senses, you know, and women aren't helping in determining this policy issue in a lot of ways, that's also problematic, because women need to be included more in the discussion. So that's something that I also wanted to mention as a part of this, that a lot of people find really sick, is that, you know, a bunch of privileged, educated white males that are in government are making decisions that affect minorities, women, uneducated, poverty-ridden people.
So you talk about how women aren't at parity in government yet. Do you think there's an institutional level to that, or do you think it's just because not as many are running for government positions?
I think there's a huge institutional thing with that.
So what law is, or whatever, what's preventing that?
There aren't any physical laws that are preventing that, but in my Women in Politics class that I took last year with Professor Julia Hellwig, who is specialized in women and gender studies here at the university, there are a lot of women, you know, at age 5, it's equal that men and women both want to run for president, but at age 15, it's a huge difference. And that's just the way that women are socialized in their upbringings. And so I think that you know, there is no law that states you cannot run for office, but it's the same thing of African Americans back when they finally gained the right to vote, but a lot of them didn't right away just because of the culture and the sense of it. And it's because women are attacked more, and women are, grilled more about what they're wearing, what they look like. It's a lot harder for women just because of the culture, and that impacts policy decisions because then their viewpoints aren't being heard.
So how do you propose you fix something like that? I don't see, because, okay, institutional, then it's not there. It's just social then, because institutional will be there's laws or something that are preventing it. But the way it looks to me, it's just women are choosing to, they're just choosing to run for these government positions less. Because from what I've seen, whenever a woman does run for a political position, she gets it more times than she doesn't, because people are actively voting for females to get in.
And you're right in that sense. When a woman does run, usually she wins. But less women run than men, and usually it's because of the social things that are evident in our political landscape, with women being attacked more in the news, and also some of the societal things women are expected to take care of their family and children, and usually the politics takes them out of that sphere. Women are usually expected to stay more in the private sphere, and politics is considered kind of a manly public sphere, more dominant, masculine career. And so the way that you go about solving that, obviously the more women that do run, that allows other young girls to see them as a role model and see that they can do it. And that's the only way that it'll change eventually, is more women running, and eventually it'll become at parity. But until that, a lot of policy decisions such as abortion are impacted because there aren't women that are there in the discussion helping making the decisions.
So do you think men are less capable of making a proper decision on the abortion debate, or?
I wouldn't say capable, but I think that they don't have the same perspective or experiences, because they won't ever have to make that decision themselves.
Okay, it's been a good discussion. We're out of time for today, so thank you all for listening to Just Hear Me Out on KAOR 91.1 FM. It was great to have Amber in here today. Maybe we'll have her back some other time. I don't know. We'll see. So we'll talk about some other stuff. Thank you so much for listening. You can follow me on Facebook or Twitter. Facebook at Just Hear Me Out 91.1 and Twitter at Just Hear Me Out SD. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with more news and other stuff to talk about. So that's it for today. See you later.